In this video, we will look at one of the two ways that we learned how to find the GCF and LCM of two numbers. We are going to look at finding the GCF, that's the greatest common factor, and the LCM, that's the least common multiple, using the Venn diagram method. So recall our Venn diagram. It's two overlapping circles, and you're comparing two items. In the overlap part of the circle, you will have all the characteristics that the items share in common, or the ways that they are the same. In the outer part of the circles, you'll have the characteristics that only belong to those items specifically. So for item 1 in the outer part of the circle, those characteristics will only belong to item 1. And for item 2 in the outer part of the circle, those characteristics will only belong to item 2. For example, let's take a look at whales and fish. We can see in the middle that they share some things in common. So whales and fish both live in water, they both have fins, and they can both swim. So those characteristics are in the overlap part of the circles. But we can see that whales have hair, but fish don't. Whales give live birth, fish do not. And whales breathe air, but fish don't. So those are on the outer part of the circle for whales. Fish lay eggs, but whales don't. Fish have scales, but whales don't. And fish breathe water, but whales don't. So the things they do not share in common go in the outer part of the circle. So what's this have to do with math? Well, let's take a look with some numbers. Let's say we want to find the greatest common factor and the least common multiple of 12 and 20. The first thing we are going to do is find the prime factorization of the number 12, and then we're going to find the prime factorization of the number 20. So I have my factor tree here for the number 12. So when I'm done with all the branches on my factor tree, I can see that 12 is equal to the product of 2 times 2 times 3. Now, I can also write it as 2 squared since the factor of 2 repeats, but we're going to use the expanded version, the 2 times 2 times 3, when we set up our Venn diagram, just to make sure everybody's clear on why there are 2 copies of the number 2. Let's also look at the prime factorization factor tree for the number 20. 20 becomes 2 times 2 times 5. So we are going to use 2 times 2 times 5 as our numbers in our Venn diagram. So that's step 1. You want to start by making a factor tree and finding the prime factorization of your two numbers. Step 2, we'll find the GCF first. The GCF is the product of the numbers found in the overlap part of the circle. So that means you're going to multiply the numbers that are in the overlap part. Remember, the overlap is where they shared characteristics. So we have our prime factorizations here for 12 and 20. And we notice that they share one factor of 2. They also share another factor of 2. So when I set up my Venn diagram, I'm going to make the circle on the left represent the number 12, and the circle on the right will represent the number 20. So when I make my Venn diagram, in the overlap part of the circle, I'm going to put both of those factors of 2 because that's what they shared in common. Now, for the number 12 on the outer part of the circle, that's where the 3 will go because 20 does not share the factor of 3. And then for the number 20 on the outer part of the circle, that's where the 5 will go because 12 did not share a factor of 5. So in the overlap part of the circle, I'm going to multiply the 2 times the 2 because that is where they share their factors that they have in common. And since 2 times 2 is 4, the GCF of 12 and 20 is 4 because that is in the overlap part of the circle. All right, so now we know the greatest common factor is 4. Let's take a look at the least common multiple. So for the least common multiple, now we're going to find the product of all the numbers that we see, not just the ones they have in common. We're going to find the product of everything. So let's get our factors up here again. So there we have all of our factors. Now we're going to take all those numbers and find the product. 3 times 2 times 2 times 5 equals 60. So when I multiply all those numbers together, that gives me my least common multiple. So the least common multiple of 12 and 20 is 60. Hope you liked it.